Saranam. Om Mahaganapate Namaha. Om Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsa Prachodayat. Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarikameva Vandanam Mrityurmukshiyamamritat. Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Shrayambakaya Tripurantakaya Shrikala-Nikalaya Kala-Virudraya Nilakantaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sarashivaya Srimad Mahadevaya Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanno Mitra Shamvarnaha Shanno Bhavadvayama Shanno Indra Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnu Rukramaha. Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayu Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Vritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvataram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vataram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Vajram Karne Vishwamiyama Devaha Vajram Pashyamakshavaviryajatraha Sairangai Sushtuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu. Swasti na Indra Virashtravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwadevaha Swasti na Sadiksho Adishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatirdatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, students of the Vidyalaya. I'd now like to ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem of Trinidad and Tobago.
Forth from the love of liberty in the fights of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Thank you very much, students of Chinmaya Vidyalaya High School. At this point in our program, we'd like to kick off with a video presentation on the meaning of Namaste. This video is done by Pastor Eddie E. Smith.
Namaste. And you write this down because this is something we're going to be using every Sunday from now on. In men, I need you to get it. Ladies, I want you to get it, but especially I want my men and boys to get it. N-A-M-A-S-T-E. That's a Hindu term. Namaste. Say that. Say it again. Namaste. Jerome means the divinity within me salutes the divinity within you. Y'all missed it. Namaste means the divinity within me salutes the divinity within you. Now, flag, this simply means I recognize that Bobby has some God in him. See, many of our boys don't have any respect for life. That's why it's so easy to kill them. So when I realize that Bobby got some God in him, just as I have some God in me, that will make me respect him not only physically, but I'll respect what I say about Bobby. We have not been taught to respect one another, so I need you to say it again. Namaste. Say it again. Namaste. The divinity within me salutes the divinity. Any teaching going on here today? And maybe that's why we have been mistreating one another for much too long. I want us to start today to say that word over and over. I want men and women, young and old, to start greeting one another instead of saying, what's happening? Young folk, when you greet somebody, namaste. Say it, choir. Namaste. Say it again. Namaste. What does that mean? The divinity within me salute. So don't tell me, what's happening, bro? Because that ain't kept our boys from killing one another. They've been saying it for a long time. What's happening, bruh? Bam!
Namahate. Hari Om. Assalamu alaikum. Good day to everyone. Before we start, before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge our special guest, specially invited guest, Miss Pearl Entu Springer. She's a poetess, laureate of Port of Spain, and also the founder of our Heritage Library, and also her two companions who accompanied her. Former Senator Brother Noble Khan, Sri Ravi Bharati of the Param Dharma Ashram, Rosemary Dipnarayan, who's the head of Sati, an organization, a service organization run by Hindu women, also Geeta Vahani from the Hindu Prachar Kendra, Professor Vijay Narayan Singh, and Raviji, and also Swami Prakash Ananda. So Hari Om and welcome all to our presentation today. We would now like to have a general perspective, an overview by Sri Raviji.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
I'm a little confused today since I misguided my elder sister, Pearl Entu Springer. And she went looking all over the place, and I'm saying, but it is on number 3. It's on number 3. It's not number 3. Poor lady, I was having her look all over the place, so I apologize for that. Jai Shri Ram. Namaskar. Assalamu alaikum. Alafia. Many people do not know that in the African tradition and amongst the Orishas, you greet each other by the word Alafia. And Ashe is a very interesting word too. It's always chanted. It's almost like Ashirvad. You have been duly welcomed, and my first duty is to give a perspective of the day. This is the 50th anniversary of the independence of Trinidad and Tobago. And as Hindu citizens of this land, we have to weigh to what extent can we call ourselves as Hindu citizens of this land a mature people. What have we in the 50 years of independence built because Mahasabha schools started in 1952, so we can't count all that. What have we in this 50 years built in terms of tangible artifacts and institutions in the country, and intangible? I think we have done quite a lot, but does it weigh well with the demands of the society in which we live? How have we accounted for ourselves so far? And in retrospect, how well can we account for ourselves? So in our journey, I think it's important that we continue to take this into consideration. And in particular, this very important year of 50th anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago, that we look and see what more we have to do, and what kind of institutions we can build to create a presence in this country that is very visible but sober, and to create a voice also in this country. Now, when we think in terms of creating a voice, we can have noisy voices, we can have rude voices, we could have ill-mannered voices, and we could have voice that we reflect on our history, we reflect on the best that our civilization has produced in thoughts and ideas and behaviors, and try to emulate that and bring it into institutions and bring it to behavior in national life. So, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Indian arrival, and in particular on Varsha Pratipada, or Hindu New Year. What is that word? Varsha Pratipada. Varsha Pratipada. Let's try out a little Pastor Eddie thing there. So this is the Hindu New Year. As a matter of fact, there are many Hindu New Years. But this Hindu New Year really stands out in the sense that it is this date, Varsha Pratipada, that in our tradition is acknowledged as when Brahma created Sansad. So in that context is the mother of all Hindu New Years, and therefore is most significant. And we have always been celebrating it in some ways over the years, but our community has discussed this issue and thought that on the occasion of Varsha Pratipada, we should call an assembly of the Hindus and start to create a voice to speak to Hindus and to the wider nation. And we should do so not only in the private, because one thing I have learned, what we say in public can be dangerous, but what we say in private can be more dangerous. And most of the damage we have done as peoples of this country is what we say in private. And as such, the committee took an enlightened view to invite community elders, national elders into our presence, so that we may be cautioned by their presence as we speak to our people and through our people to the entire nation. So this is a very interesting challenge that the Hindu community has taken on itself this year. We have discussed this quite almost 2 or 3 months ago, but Swamiji being busy and I being forgetful, we have not this year worked on it as we should have. And actually, Swamiji is all over the world. It's more my fault. But Swamiji said, we have taken a sankalp, we must go ahead with it. And so we started. I want to acknowledge that the presence of those elders who we have invited. And Brother Noble Khan, I know from a long time. He's an elder of our community, our wider Jahaji community, and I have had his love, and we have sat together on many things together, and acknowledge his presence as a very important person in the country, whose voice and being has reached all sorts of places. Shri Ravi Bharati, another head of our community, he too, I salute him. Rosemary Dipnarine, who has always been a community worker for years. I've worked along with her and still work along with her. I salute her. And Pandit Bishramji, and all the elders here who have worked and are working as head of organization. And of course, I must salute my brother who has always been standing by my side for years in this trust, Professor Narayan Singh. And I have to pay pranams to this lovely place and to Swami Chinmayananda ji and all those who belong to that line of gurus, and the gift he has given us to this country in the person of Swami Prakashananda ji. But I want to pay a special tribute to my sister, Pearl Springer, who has been a warrior in this country, in the Black Power. She never apologizes for being who she has been. That is the last thing you'll hear for her. She's an African woman of this country, proud, queen-like, beautiful, well-spoken, a poetess, laureate of this country, and somebody with whom I have engaged a lot of things, and she has taken me to a lot of places. Actually, my engagement with the Orisha community started with her. And I thank her for calling me brother. And I thank her for coming here today. And later, she has been asked to deliver a message on this occasion. So our platform within this particular, and I forgot my Betty, Gita Vahini ji. I don't know, he always does that. Forget it. You'll put less salt in the food for me today. Yeah. So, we are trying to forge, therefore, an occasion for speaking and also addressing ourselves in front of the elders of the nation. Now, one of the reasons for choosing Varsha Pratipada is very important, because Varsha Pratipada marks out our Hindu calendar. And therefore, we must be sensitive to a certain issue because the country is not sensitive. And what is that? There are about 5 calendars that are operating in Trinidad and Tobago. One everybody knows is the Gregorian calendar. And under the tyranny of that Gregorian calendar, all the other calendars exist and have to cut and fit itself. The Hijrah, have I said the correct word? Calendar of the Muslims. And the Orisha, as a matter of fact, their New Year is between May and June, and when the Ogungun festival goes on, and when 2 important streams of activities in terms of prayer is propitiating for a good year to come, and thankfulness to the ancestors for the past and what they have given us in terms of a harvest and feasting of yams and beans. So there are several calendars side by side. But while we are a democratic state, the country does not take that into concern. I have had so many experiences once at TTT where they said I'm confused and confusing. I think it's important to relate the incident to underline the issue here. And that is, it was an Easter period when we had Pichkari coming up, and we were organizing for Pichkari. Naila will remember, she's not here. And while we were organizing, we naturally have to do everything on Sundays or the weekends. So we had Pichkari on Sunday. And suddenly in the midst of it, I realized, oh gosh, what am I doing? This is such a lively festival. And we are having something, and the Christian community will be mourning because of Easter. And I told them, look, we got to change this thing. We got to move it to Friday. I don't remember that year when we moved to Friday. And while continuing planning now, I had to go back to television house and ask them to move the live coverage from Sunday to Friday. And when I went, afterwards we continued our planning, then I realized, oh my God, what mistake I have made. Friday is the day when they crucified Christ. Now I knew that, but it wasn't, I was hurried to accommodate as a Trinidadian Hindu, you know, the sensitivities of the nation. Did you remember this issue? But when I went to Friday, and I could remember that man's face, he said, all the Hindus confused and confusing. Well, he shut me up totally because he was so astoundingly stupid and not understanding what it takes for a person of a civilization like mine to cut and fit itself into the Gregorian calendar, uncomplaining. And I think this highlights why today is important, the Varsha Pratipada is important, that we get an opportunity to present
this very critical issue for the nation to consider as we move towards multiculturalism and national development. Because issues are not only economic and this and that. And this is why we have to find a forum, have to found a forum where we can speak of these issues. Because most of the time it's bhakti and bhajan and prasad and all of that. There's some time we have to call attention to serious matters. So why bowing? Bowing, well, we have to talk about several things. But recently the issue with Mr. Rowley, Dr. Rowley, brought bowing into the national agenda. And what we Hindus do, we looked at the political issue and tried to have a lot of entertainment out of that and lose a very important opportunity where one of our issues became on the national agenda. And we never capitalized on it. The immaturity of the Hindu organizations, of the Hindu communities, including myself. And Dr. Rowley wasn't far behind in his immaturity. If I was a contending politician, I would have said, you know what? I do not understand what the Prime Minister means by bowing to the head of state. I don't understand it, but I know it's a tradition of my people. You know what I will do? I promise, if I become Prime Minister, to have all the traditions of this country come into the primary and secondary schools so that they will understand and they would make the mistake I'm making. That is what I would have done. And he would have won such goodwill from the Trinidad and Tobago. But he lost the opportunity. And we lost, as Hindus, an opportunity to place it on the agenda. I don't think it is lost yet. We still have the time to do it. And this is why we call attention to the issue of bowing today. Right? And therefore, before I leave, I also want to bring one verse from our Shastra that give us a guidance. I was telling Swamiji, as I'm coming of age now, I will slip away just now sometime. I'm so hurried to see these things happening. And so therefore, if I'm not here around for the next year perhaps, at least this verse will be for guidance. Right? So we discussed this issue, and we have agreed that Swami Prakashananda will be the voice of this assembly. That he will, in consultation with all the groups that wish to come together on this issue, and individuals and opinion leaders, and we'll find a way to receive and harvest opinions on what issues should be discussed. We will go through a period of discussion of what must take place and actually formulate it well. So Prakashananda does not need a recommendation from me. You all know of the caliber, the sincerity, the profundity of the man, the spirituality of the man, and as a builder. And therefore, we will leave this in his hands to take it forward. And I'd like to leave this verse with you. In the Shastra is written, Eta desh prasutasya sakashat agra janmanah swam swam charitram siksheran pratyam sarasamanovaha. What it means? It's a mandate from our rishis which says, O my children of the rishis, go out into the world. And each one of us, by our swam charitram, by the way we behave and encounter people, and the way we engage people, teach by the way we live and embrace the people and behave with the people. He did not say by talk. The Shastras didn't say by talk. But perform the way we live, the lifestyle, the attitude that we take to the peoples of the world. Let us teach the world the best we can from our Shastras. Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you very much, Shri Raviji. Now we have the mantra of the year. Every year, the Hindu Prachar Kendra, they release what is called a mantra of the year. This mantra is from the Rig Veda, and it's from the Rig Veda, and it was first reintroduced to us by the Hindu Prachar Kendra in the year 1991. And it speaks about enlightened citizenship, meaning reverence to that land, that space that we occupy. And we'll have the Hindu Prachar Kendra presenting this mantra of the year. Yam Vedi.
Yam Vedi यज्ञो भुवनस्य नाभिः कृण्वन्तु विश्वमार्य 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 This land is my altar, I am the salt. I pledge myself and soul, my head and heart and hand, for this my beloved land. This land is my altar, I am the salt. I pledge myself and soul, my head and heart and hand, for this my beloved land. Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya. Every little action is a Hindu offering, like the ancient rishis. Every little action is a Hindu offering, like the ancient rishis. Brave and bold as Ram, wise and strong as Sham. Brave and bold as Ram, wise and strong as Sham. Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya. Invoke this ancient mantra to stir the Hindu heart. Invoke this ancient mantra to stir the Hindu heart. Bless us as we march on. The mission must now start. The mission must now start. And I must play my part. And I must play my part. The mission must now start. And I must play my part. And I must play my part. Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya, Krinvantu Vishwamarya.
We would now like to invite Shri Ravi Bharati to speak on the 50th anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago, our motherland.
Namaskar. Tam va etam ahuhu ati pita batabhuhu ati pita moho batabhuhu. May the present generation surpass the accomplishments and achievements of our forefathers. With this mantram, we are guided to strive for excellence. The 50th anniversary of this beloved land of ours, 1962 to 2012. How have the Hindus influenced, shaped, and decorated the course of history of this beloved nation of ours? Prior to independence, in the 50s, more so 1952, as Raviji rightly said, the unsung heroes, the unsung Hindu heroes shot into highlight. The building of Hindu schools by the late Bhade Sagan Maharaj, a brave and bold act of a Hindu hero securing the future of the Hindu children of tomorrow. One such hero came to the forefront in the early period. Such Hindu schools were once called cowsheds. The same cowsheds, such institutions, have produced many leaders to the day. The second Hindu hero I will only highlight one or two Hindu heroes and their contribution to this beloved nation of ours. The Hindu Veer of Waterloo, Siddha Sadhu, inspired by the Ramcharitamanas, seeing that the bridge being built to Lanka, but the rocks floating on water, took stone by stone, rock by rock, with his bucket in his hands, on the bicycle, and he started building the bridge to build a mandir in the sea. And this was not just an ordinary bridge being built. It's bridging the gap between humanity and divinity. Such was the inspiration of Siddha Sadhu from the Ramcharitmanas. He himself tried to let the rocks remain afloat in Waterloo, which became history to this nation. In all professional fields of life, the Hindus have decorated and added a colorful landscape to the beautiful TNT. From medicine to law to engineering, politics, business, music, you name it. In every professional field in this country, the Hindu have had an input. Never before has our parliament been filled with the presence of Hindus. This country has produced 2 prime ministers of the Hindu tradition. We are proud to say that they are part of our tradition. This is a clear picture of the present generation surpassing the achievements of our ancestors. So we have used the mantra to clearly give us a guide of how to surpass and achieve and go beyond the accomplishments of our ancestors. Who ever thought from the heart of the cane field to the middle of the jheel that we will produce 2 prime ministers? Even though it was said, one is not fit to be a prime minister. Who walked barefoot, selling bodhi in the village of Debe Pinal. She has reached the highest position in the office today, and we salute and bow to her in such an achievement of our people. Brains and beauty bedecked the parliament of this country. There was a time when the Hindus had no recourse but to hold a Bible in their hand and swear in parliament. There was a time when we had no recourse. It took almost from the day we came into government as a people, the first government, from then till the 80s. From then to the 80s, almost 25 to 30 years before a Bhagavad Gita was introduced in the parliament to be used in the swearing ceremony. How have the Hindus accomplished after independence and decorated the landscape of our people? Well, our cuisine has become infectious. It has influenced the psyche of the people of this country. Our roti, our tarkari, our pulauri, and the chutney. And if you go in Port of Spain, can I have a roti? And it is a village man who has gone to the city and calling the roti, can I get a roti skin? From the word vara, Later on, it was distorted to become bara. And that word bara has become today the national dish of Trinidad and Tobago, our doubles. So infectious is the contribution of the Hindus to this country. Uddhared atmanatmanam, our tradition, Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 verse 5. Uplift yourself, O man. Na avasadayed, do not degrade yourself. This being a guide for us to evolve to a different level of thinking. For more than 100 years in the religious and spiritual field, for over 100 years, the Hindus have celebrated Ram Leela in Dao village. Over 1 century in Ramai trace and in Sucha trace, Ganesh Utsav have been observed. For more than 1 century. The Hindus have contributed tremendously to the development of TNT. And we will continue to contribute and to develop this land of our birth, TNT. Bhagwan Ram Chandraji in the Ramcharitmanas said to his younger brother Lakshmana, Janani Janma Bhumischa Swargadapi Gariyasi, that mother and motherland is greater than heaven. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Sri Ravi Bharati. I really enjoyed that. Next up on our program, let's keep this a bit interactive. So we're going, all of us are going to engage in the Hindu pledge. It is a pledge that really outlines the duty of each Hindu, our duty as Hindus. So I'd like to ask all of you to please stand. Take your right hand, place it on your heart, because this pledge comes from our hearts, all right? And we'll say it together, we'll pledge together our duty. That'll be projected there, okay? We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined, ever ready to fight against all low tendencies and false values within and without us. We live honestly the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace to keep us on the path of virtue, courage, and wisdom. May thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities. Give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much. Now you all can have your seats. And next on our program is a really powerful song that has really made its way into the hearts of every person. From the time you hear the opening of it, you will know exactly what it is. So I'd like to call on Auntie Siro, Srimati Siromani Narayan Singh, to please sing for us, Mission to the Caribbean.
Namaste. Of course, most of you here are familiar with this song, but for those who are not, I would like to introduce it, please. This song was written as a pichikari on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the arrival of our ancestors to this land. It was, of course, written by Sri Raviji, and it is known as a Prayarna Geet, which is a song that doesn't require music. It's inspirational. And when you hear the lyrics, you will understand. You will actually feel it. So Ravi Bharati ji just spoke about Udharir Atman Atmanam. Uplift yourself. Don't ever degrade yourself. Tanvaye tamahu. Go beyond your pitris or your ancestors. And
I am about to add another dimension. Actually, it's the same. All the instructions basically tell us what our duties are. The Mother of the Universe is speaking to her children in Bharat, and she is saying, go. Go, my children. I hear a voice calling for you in the Caribbean. Go. Fulfill your duties, but remember your true mission. Krinvantu Vishvam Aryam. Make it a noble place. And it is the mandate of the Hindu not only to go beyond the Pitris, but wherever we go, we must make it a noble place. And the mother says, Go, ascending on a mission to the Caribbean. Ja, ascending on a mission to the Caribbean. There is a mystery behind indent your history. Ha Sahib, take we from the ancient country. Beyond Kalapani, only half the story. But a secret voice was singing that they need you. Sing, sing, Ja, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Bit, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Lake Rukar Katlis Beta, Kodari और हसवा चलनी तू चाले चीनी एक बड़ी गंगा पानी. Be stronger than the pain, build up the land again. Giving is your dharma, building is your karma. Go ascending, Ja, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Go, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Plant kitari, sweetening the country. Aam aur dhaan grain in the Karni plain. People neem aur bel patta, tulsi and pan ke patta. Chadhawe on dharati mata, water from your shining lota. Ascending you, Ja, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Go, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Take the Ramayana to the Caribbean. Jandi so colorful, song so joyful. Every creed and race, help them find their equal place. Go, build a rainbow nation, fulfill my ambition. Go, ascending you, Ja, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. Beat, ascending you on a mission to the Caribbean. So good samskar in every parivar, strength and intelligence, courage and obedience. Work with 100 hands, give with 1,000 Krinvantu Vishvam Maryam, your eternal mission waits in me.
Thank you very much, Auntie Ciro. I'm sure everybody in here has goosebumps now because that was such a powerful rendition of Mission to the Caribbean. Up next on our program, we have a blessing of goodwill to all organizations, chanted from the Vedas, Swasti Prajabhya, by our Chinmaya Vidyalaya primary school students.
Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahi Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhya Shubhamaste Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parajanya Prathavi Sasya Shalani Desho Yaksho Bharataha Brahmana Santu Nirvayaha Mona Karmana Napajaya Dhani Natyage Naike Amrajatva Manishahu Parena Nakam Nehi Tambuhayam Viphajaretar Yatayo Vishanti Veranta Vijnana Sunishchitatas Sanyasa Yogar Yataya Shraddha Sattvaha Te Brahmaloke Tu Parantakale Paramritat Parimuchanti Sarve Dahram Vipapam Parame Eshmabhutam Yat Pundariham Puramadya Sagastam Tahrapirahram Gaganam Vishogaram Tasmanyarantas Charupasitavyam Yo Vedadav Swara Progdo Verante Cha Pratishtitaha Tasya Prakriti Linasya Yabbarasa Maheshwaraha Om Natatra Suryo Bhatina Chandra Taraka.
I'd like to call on Ms. Paul Springer, the Poetess Laureate of Port of Spain.
Grandchildren, it is with great pleasure and humility that I accept the honor of speaking here. In my tradition, I'm supposed to ask the permission of those older than I am to speak. But those getting fewer and fewer because I don't know. So I don't know if I have anybody for me to ask permission. But I pay respect and bow at the feet of my spiritual elders. I recognize my dear brother, Raviji, and I salute him for all the wonderful work that he's doing. I see my other brother, Noble Khan, there. We have struggled together, all of us, to try and fulfill our mission to this Caribbean. And that very inspirational song that has become so iconic in our landscape applies to all of us who have been dragged from the belly of our homeland, an opportunity to see mission, an opportunity to build. So we salute the Pitri, we salute the Egungun ancestors in my language and yours, and we stand on their shoulders. They carry us on their backs. We live to fulfill their dreams that were thwarted. We live to fulfill their dreams that they expressed in their tears, that they expressed in their fervent prayers. live to make those dreams come true by achieving excellence, by defying the odds of enslavement and indentureship, and proclaiming ourselves from worldviews, from civilizations that existed way, way in the depths of history. I looked at the video that was shown, and that man, as he saluted God in those young people, Namaste. And I thought that conversion is really an evil and a sin. Because if that man knew his history, he would have found the Namaste in the Mojuba, in the 256 verses of Ifa, which say things like, hard work is the remedy for poverty. Honesty is how we should live. 256 stories and verses in Ifa. But he cannot know that because he's a Christian. And it is so amusing that he would look to another ancient civilization for the wisdom that is in his own. And so, as African and Indian peoples, we recognize the greatness of our civilizations. We recognize the fact that as we speak to multiculturalism, we become wary of the rainbow that can smudge colors into one another. But we hope for the undiluted strength of each of our cultures, sharing and reaching across to strengthen each other and make indeed a mission of our land. I remember Baba Sam in India, a great Orisha leader, and we are up in the Himalayas, and we are at the edge of Ganga Mai. And in full Bhojpuri, Baba Sam is praying, linking Mama Oshun with Ganga Mai. And when he was finished praying and offering, the people around said, "Where are you from again?" And I thought of that story and how that mission that my brother Ravi has written about was being accomplished. I feel pride, I feel love, and I pray for the days that my own people will overcome the devastation of having their spirituality and religion taken from them. Because in that resides your worldview. It is my firm belief that only a slave worships the God of another. For the lie that we have been told is that God creates us in his own image and likeness. But we create God in our own image and likeness. How can we worship a God that does not look like us, in which we cannot see our greatest good? So I come with humility, with love at the start of the Hindu New Year. And I ask the blessings of Lord Ganesh, who with his powerful elephant tusks will trample down every negativity. And like Eshu, He stands at the beginning of the year. Your Ganesh, my issue, together leading our joint peoples to live and work together, recognizing their shared greatness in a worldview that comes from our ancient civilization, praising our Pitri or Egongong as we move forward into a bright future. Ashe, Ashe.
A very special Hari Om Namaste, Sitaram, to all of you. Let me recognize the presence of all my elders and well-wishers and all who have been recognized already. It's great to be in your company. Raviji has thrust upon me a very great task, something which I am totally new to, because for the last 12 or 15 years, I've been speaking about simple verses from Ramayana, some Gita verses, and all that. But to take on the task of developing a Hindu voice is something which is very big. And today I'm going to take up the challenge and, well, begin. I might not be successful, but I would not be blamed for not trying. I want to first contextualize the issue which we are dealing with today, and of course in the coming years we will deal with other important issues also. On January 9th this year, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, bowed and touched the feet of the President of India, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil. This respectful greeting is characteristically Hindu. What is interesting is that this natural outpouring of love, respect, and reverence was seen by certain groups in our country as unacceptable, subservient, uncalled for, and so many words were used. On the radio, there were loud voices condemning this act of the Prime Minister. Touching of the feet, or upasangrahana in Sanskrit, and in Hindi it's called padasparshana, is purely Hindu and is just one expression in a sequence of steps in bowing, which I will deal with as we move along on the program. But this sort of reaction does not surprise me in Trinidad and Tobago in the least bit, because I am well aware of the deeper maladies which we have to address as a nation. Sister, well, I should not say sister, Mother Pearl Springer spoke about, alluded to slavery and our people practicing the religion and culture of Massa. And I have told my audiences in the past that slavery is complete, indentureship is complete when Massa has gone, but the one who was subjected to his religion and culture is still practicing in the absence of Massa. It means that his slavery is total and complete. And that is the malady I'm talking about, which we are all suffering from still in this country. 50 years of independence also does not guarantee maturity for our people. National development is a long process. This sort of reaction is symptomatic of the deeper deficiencies we have to work on as a nation and indeed as a civilization. The reaction has its rudiments, the reaction to bowing, has its rudiments in one of the competing worldviews which we encounter in Trinidad. There are two worldviews. One which is exclusive, which is characterized by the I am right, you are wrong attitude, which says that either you are with me
or against me, which divides the world into watertight compartments of good and evil, and exclude all that is perceived as evil. This is the one worldview. The other worldview is overarching, all-inclusive. It recognizes that we all see the world in our own little way, and no one has a right to exclude any other person's point of view because we consider that person's point of view to be wrong or evil. Just as we are supposed to allow someone their physical space, we are also supposed to allow other people their mental space. This is a highly philosophical point, and I want you to pay attention to this point, because on it hinges the greatest of global human challenges. Challenges that threaten to eradicate the species itself, like nuclear war, environmental depletion, and so on. The former worldview has its foundations in dualism, while the latter in the idea of oneness. In the former, God is seen as living in heaven. Man has dominion over the world. Man is not of this world. His destination is heaven. So, the earth is not so important to him. It is only a pit stop which we pass through once. Hence the idea that we can ravage and plunder the earth without giving due respect to the earth. This type of disease has its roots in that first worldview. In the latter worldview, God is seen as immanent in the world. He's part and parcel of the world. All things are intricately intertwined, joined together. All things form one reality. The great Native American chief, Seattle, presented this worldview most lucidly when he wrote to the American people, to the American president in 1855. And many of you will be familiar with this very important historical letter which he wrote. I'll read a portion of it which is relevant for us today. He said to the president, quote, "The white man must treat the beasts of this land as his brothers. I am a savage, and I do not understand any other way." Of course, he was branded as savage. Therefore, he's saying that he's savage. "I have seen 1,000 rotting buffaloes on the prairies left by the white man who shot them from a passing train. I am a savage, and I do not understand how the smoking iron horse," means the train, "could be more important than the buffalo we kill only to stay alive. What is man without the beasts? If all the beasts were gone, men would die from great loneliness of spirit. For whatever happens to the beast also happens to man. All are connected," he says. "Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself." This, unquote. These are the words of Chief Seattle, which epitomizes the latter worldview which I am talking about, in which, of course, Hinduism finds such a conducive place. The idea is echoed in the immortal verse of Tulsidas in the Shri Ramcharitmanas, when he says, "Siya Ram mai sab jag jani, karau pranam jori jug pani." Knowing that God is present in everything, I put my hands together in an attitude of reverence and prostrate to all things in the universe. Not just prostrate to a president, but I prostrate to all things in the universe. Bowing is a most natural expressive result of the latter worldview. We bow to all things in the world. But the Lord's Maya, Shankaracharya writes, is ativa vichitra, supremely amazing. The worldview which is exclusive, which excludes people, which contains the seeds of destruction, seem to enjoy at the same time a sort of natural hegemony in the world, as if to remind us constantly of two facts about this world. Ativa vichitra maya. What two facts? Death and destruction is inherent in the world process, one. And second, more importantly, our evolution lies in the struggle to ensure that this insidious death, epitomized by the first worldview, does not snuff out life that accompanies it. Our struggle should be such that it makes sure that that first worldview does not snuff out the second. We live in a pluralistic society governed by a democratic constitution which guarantees our fundamental rights and freedom. Freedom of speech and association, freedom to pursue religion of our choice, and freedom of press for all citizens. But they appear to provide a level playing ground for all. But democracy is not sufficient to guarantee harmonious existence and to guarantee that the first worldview does not snuff out the second worldview. Democracy is not sufficient. What is required is understanding and acceptance among the groups of the fundamental existence of the other, and that my existence depends on the other as much as the other's existence depends on mine. Prolonged historical antecedents have sought to ensure the perpetuity of the hegemony of this binary worldview by institutionalizing it, making it part of the educational system, and by making sure it gets embedded in the psyche of the world. We have to make sure that we introduce to the world the second worldview and make sure that in the minds and psyche of everybody, they see this contrast very strongly. Otherwise, the first worldview will snuff out the other worldview. The first worldview, being exclusive, guarantees war, poverty, conflict, environmental depletion, and so on. Pluralistic societies like ours have a duty to revisit the social paradigms by which we live and to stamp out the creases and cracks in the social canvas. The next generation is born into the paradigm which we adhere to now. They are born into the paradigm which we develop now. They are born into the paradigm which we give to them. So we have a duty to make sure that we establish the right paradigms that is going to bring perpetuity of the world. Imagine where the species is going. The one worldview that is all-inclusive, embracing and accommodating all, has been branded as savage. Why else would the Reverend Chief Seattle call himself as a savage if he had not been branded so? It is the same way in which we are branded as pagans or demonic and so on. It is one worldview doing that to the second worldview. It is in this context that the issue of bowing arose. It seemed abominable to certain sections of the society that the Prime Minister of our country should bow and touch the feet of the President of another country. But bowing is what we do. Bowing is what all the indigenous cultures do, because there's a reverence for everything in the world. The we are right and they are wrong attitude immediately got triggered because a prejudice always sits lying for catalyst. So immediately a great upheaval came. Many masked the objection to the bow with the cloak of protocol, claiming that it was against protocol. There is one leader, a world leader, who refuses to allow a dead protocol which is devoid of humanness to cloud his judgment, and that is President Obama. Possessing the broadness of vision, understanding, and political astuteness that he has, on the 14th of November 2009, President Obama bowed before the Japanese Emperor Akihito. It was almost a 90-degree bow which broke a long-standing American president tradition of showing no difference to other world leaders. Here is a president who is thinking laterally, who is thinking outside the box. It seems rather absurd to me, at least I don't know if it seems absurd to you, but it seems absurd to me to allow a protocol to take a human being who has ascended to one of the highest offices of the world, as the president has, and to make him relinquish his natural human inclination to show respect and reverence, and to reduce him to a machine bowing to the dictates of a dead tradition which is devoid of humanism. Is it to perpetuate the arrogance that we are the greatest nation in the world and we do not bow to anybody? Look behind the protocol. I tell you, you will see the ugly face of arrogance staring at you. Look behind the I am right and they are wrong attitude, and you will see arrogance in its glory. When protocol and even religion get in the way of the higher human values of respect and reverence, it is time for the former to give way to the latter. Arrogance should always give way to humility, respect, and reverence. We have long passed the concept of a mere pluralistic nation. It is now a pluralistic world. Pluralism has no place for the dominance or for suppressing or suppression, unless, of course, it is something which is harmful or detrimental to the social organism. The characteristic feature of a pluralistic society is its overarching inclusiveness, which the second worldview represents. It was Voltaire who respected our sacred thought and action space, who said, I may not agree with you. I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. You know, one of the simplest examples, I want to just tell you this example, one of the simplest examples of this exclusiveness and acceptance occurs every time I speak to Raviji on the phone. You see how simple this thing is? I call Raviji. He will answer, Namaskar. I will say Hari Om, and he will say Namaskar. It is a sure sign of immaturity if I insist that he also says Hari Om. I say Hari Om, and I respect and welcome his right to say Namaskar. And the second worldview promotes this sort of inclusiveness, recognition, this sort of reverence for the right. It's not only just recognition, reverence for the rights of others. Bowing in the Hindu tradition. Hindus have evolved a great spiritual and cultural trait of bowing before teachers, elders, and other reverential persons. This bowing can be seen in many Asian cultures. In fact, all traditional and indigenous cultures bow. It is a mark of respect which flows from humility. In it, there is the recognition of a natural hierarchy also. We show respect for age, somebody older than me. Nobility, somebody more noble than me. Divinity, somebody more accomplished in a divine sense. Spiritual accomplishment and so on. Learning. This recognition of a hierarchy in no way compromises the Hindu view of the oneness of the universe. As a matter of fact, there is a great connection between humility and national development. There can be no national development or progress unless there is the integrated development of the human resource of the country. Development is not merely about building tall buildings and all that kind of thing. It is about developing the national resource, which is the human resource. The rishis quite early discovered the pivotal role that humility plays in this integrated development of human beings. Development is not simply about increasing wealth. A fool and his wealth are soon parted, the old adage goes. Development, first and foremost, means the embellishing of the personality of each individual of the nation with the universal values of humility, charity, caring, patriotism, fairness, integrity of character, balanced education, and a universal outlook. Are we not a generation cowering under the weight of our social selfishness and dearth of integrity? A nation beset with corruption and selfishness can never have true development or evolution. Ravaging nature and building tall concrete structures is no development if those who are charged with managing the nation's resources steal half of it by cutting deals behind closed doors because they have privileged position and information. What type of development it is? One person went so far as to try to justify such actions also. Actions of taking cuts. What is that? Kickbacks in Trinidad has a nice name. Kickbacks. He's trying to justify taking kickbacks also. What do you say? Swamiji, the money so acquired cannot be eaten by those people who acquire the money. They have to take the money and put it right back into the economy. So it provides jobs for people. These types of arguments have implicit weaknesses built into them. One is saying that it is okay to swindle as long as I create jobs. If someone fraudulently swindles his money, however, the story becomes different. Double standards set in, you see. I immediately condemn the action. The person immediately condemns the action, which he only moments ago tried to justify. Inherently, one knows that stealing is wrong. We cannot build a nation on a wrong footing with double standards and then justify stealing when it is not my stuff which is stolen. True development starts with stamping out these negative qualities and imbibing fundamental values, the first of which is humility. In our Subhashita Ratnakhanda Manjusha, it is said, Sakala guna bhusha cha vinaya. Vinaya, a humility, embellishes all the other great qualities. Humility is the one that decorates all the other great qualities. And if we are going to talk of national development, that humility must first and foremost be there. Another scripture says, Guna prakarsho vinayat avapyate. All noble qualities are enhanced with humility. Tulsidas, in his very famous verse which I quoted, which I told you about, says that he bows before all things. But at another place, he says that arrogance is one of the 4 doors to hell. There are 4 doors to hell. One is desire, lust, anger, and greed. And the 4th door, Tulsidas, he adds, departing from the tradition of Bhagavad Gita, he adds this 4th door. Bhagavad Gita says 3 doors to hell. Tulsidas puts 1 more. 4 doors to hell. That 4th door he adds is arrogance. Some people tell me, Swamiji, I'm better off reading Gita because only 3 chances of going to hell. But this arrogance is the 4th door. Anger takes one to trouble, and arrogance keeps him there, it is said. Whether it is in the corporate world, in family life, political, or in the diplomatic arena, humility wins the day. Arrogance has brought enough irreversible damage and untold sorrow on the world. Perhaps the greatest example of arrogance bringing down a nation is Ravan's arrogance, which brought down Lanka. Humility was not one of Ravan's qualities. Through hard work, he had built a mighty and seemingly formidable nation. However, the inherent weakness of arrogance stealthily existed at its foundation. He could never conceive of himself bowing to Rama, even though exhorted to do so by his wife, his brother, his minister, his uncle, his maternal grandfather, and others. Here at home, in Trinidad and Tobago, I have witnessed, you would have witnessed also, 2 governments fell because, or solely because, of the arrogance of the leaders in government. 2 governments. This is what we mean by arrogance. And the antidote to arrogance is humility. Bowing and its development, and how it is connected to humility. Bowing is a mark of humility. It is the most natural expression of one of the most noble emotions of the human heart, the desire to acknowledge and express reverence and respect for things like learning, age, position, accomplishment, nobility, divinity, and so on. Bowing is not only an expression of humility, but also helps to develop humility. It is a two-edged sword. It is an expression of humility, but the act of bowing itself helps to develop humility. This is how the rishis conceptualize. There are 4 stages I want to tell you about in this bowing. The first is called as pratyuttanam. Pratyuttanam means somebody walks into the room, somebody reverential, some respectful person walks into the room. That time, we quickly rise. We find ourselves doing that. Huh? We quickly rise to acknowledge the greatness of the person. It is called a pratyuttanam. The second is called as namaskar, which Raviji says on the phone all the time, which means exactly the same thing as namaste, which we are seeing in that film. Namaskar or namaste. Paying homage in the form of namaste, folding the hands. In this namaskar or namaste, in addition to what the great pastor was saying, there's something else that you have to remember. When I say namahate or namaste or namaskar, what I'm saying is, in the moment when I put my hands together and I do salutations to you, that time I discount my own existence in difference to your existence. Your existence becomes important to me at this moment, and my existence takes a back seat. Namahate. Namamate. Not me, you. That is the idea. This is the second stage. The third stage is called as upasangrahana. Upasangrahana means bowing down and touching the feet of the person. Touching of the feet itself. It is here, and I will come to it just now, where bowing becomes a Hindu sadhana, a spiritual practice. The last of the 4 stages is called as Sashtanga Pranam. Sashtanga Pranam means I go down flat on the floor, and my 8 limbs should be straight like a stick. Dandavat Pranam it is called as sometimes. Where the feet, knees, stomach, chest, forehead, and arms, they touch the ground before divinity, before some reverential person. We even have in Hinduism a most wonderful form of bowing, which you can do over the phone also. See, we cater for the modern generation also. You can do it by texting over the internet, over the phone. That is called a payalagi. From some distance you say payalagi. In their great vision and foresight, the rishis always looked towards sustainable long-term development, even at the cost of short-term personal discomfort and inconvenience. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna speaks of that which is like poison in the beginning, but later becomes like nectar. We have become a nation which is intoxicated by short-term political gains at the cost of long-term development of the nation. The thirst for power is naturally associated with arrogance. Caring for others becomes a casualty in the pursuit of power. In fact, quite often, using others becomes the principal means of getting into power. Divinity and worth are not seen in the other person. They just become a medium, a means to get into power. When national leaders themselves subscribe to the binary hegemony, they cannot but get involved in this type of petty politics at the cost of the long-term development of the nation. We are staring disaster in the making when that thing happens. In Bhagavad Gita, again, Lord Krishna said, people do what the leaders do. Since it is the political leaders that get all the attention in this Kali Yuga in which we are living, it is important that we groom future generations to ensure that we do not exchange social evolution and progress for petty political pursuits that is exclusive in its orientation. As a nation of diverse peoples, we should be looking more towards first understanding each other and then taking the best practices from each other, not to look for every opportunity to condemn each other, but to enhance our social skills in relating to each other. When a national leader stands up and disparages the practices of any group without seeing the bigger picture, as Raviji was saying, if he had just thought a little bit and used that other approach, he would have won the hearts of Hindus. But he is a victim to that type of worldview which we are talking about. And we cannot allow the rest of our nation to become victims to that worldview. And he stands up and does this sort of thing without seeing the bigger picture. We are exchanging social evolution for petty politics at the national level. We are entering sad days when that happened. Bowing and sadhana in Hinduism. Developing humility is not merely a means of nation building. In fact, it is part of Hindu sadhana itself, or spiritual practice. We bow to develop humility as an aid to enlightenment. While bowing has remained as mere etiquette in some cultures, we attach a much greater value to it than that. It is a means of removing arrogance from the ego, making the mind conducive to the reception of supreme knowledge. Therefore, the Lord says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Acquire this knowledge, know the reality. How? By approaching some great and reverential person and first bowing. Pranipatena. Then other things come. Ironically, while bowing or developing reverence, a reverential, respectful attitude is essential for enlightenment, this attitude and act also is an outcome of enlightenment. And therefore Tulsidas Ji's famous verse, Siya Ram mai sab jagat jani, karau pranam jori jugapani. I put my hands together, knowing that God is in all things, and I prostrate to all things in the universe. As we approach the completion of 50 years of independence, let us try to actualize the words of our anthem, which speaks of Trinidad and Tobago as a place where every creed and race finds an equal place. Maybe 50 years is too short a time to expect maturity, but let it serve to remind us of the goals of inclusiveness, acceptance, and understanding. It is a time to reflect and to refocus, putting the long-term benefit of our nation at heart by committing to its development and evolution through the enhancement of the human capital or human resource. It was Abraham Lincoln who said that a nation divided against itself can never stand. And in order to bring this nation together, we have to adopt the overarching second worldview, which is all-inclusive and which allows every human being their physical space and their mental space to evolve and to make a better Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, for giving us that enlightenment that we actually craved on this. It's our very own tradition of bowing. Thank you so much, Swamiji. It says, Kaho ek baar, hey mitro, say once, oh friend, Sanatan Dharma ki jai ho. Victory to Sanatan Dharma. So I'd like to ask the Kendra Mandali to lead us in this beautiful song.
Sanatan
presentation today by our various speakers, and I hope it was able to enlighten each one of us with respect to what was said today. So just have a closing prayer. Special invited guests, Brother Noble Khan, Sri Ravi Bharati, Miss Rosemary Dipnarain, Miss Mother Pearl into Springer, and her retinue, Gita Vahini, and Sri Raviji, and some Prakash Ananda. So thank you all very much for coming today, and thanks everyone for making today's occasion possible. Hindus speak on the issue of bowing. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.